Hi there, welcome to ShineTech's YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to go through anatomy MCQs on the thorax. So question 1 reads, which one of the following bone is classified as long bone? Which one of the following bone is considered or classified as long bone? A, rib, B, clavicle, C, sternum, D, manubrium, and E, thoracic vertebrae. So which one among these is considered to be a long bone? So the rib is a flat bone. It is considered to be flat bone because it is flat. The thoracic vertebrae, it is an irregular bone, and the manubrium and the body of the sternum, these are flat bones. Then from there, the clavicle is a long bone. It is considered to be a long bone. So question A, the correct answer is B. Question 2, the manubrium forms a typical synovial joint with the A, clavicle, B, first costal cartilage, C, second costal cartilage, D, thoracic vertebrae, E, body of the sternum. So what is an atypical synovial joint? An atypical synovial joint, this is the type of a joint which is covered by what we call fibrocartilage. And typical synovial joint are covered by hyaline cartilage. So among these bones here, among these choices here, which one forms a typical synovial joint with the manubrium? So the correct answer for question 2 is body of the sternum. So the body of the sternum and the manubrium forms a typical synovial joint. This joint is covered by fibrocartilage. That's why it is atypical. So that joint is simply the joint between the manubrium there and the body of the sternum. This joint there is covered by fibrocartilage and it is atypical. So the correct answer is E. We move on to question 3. Question 3 reads, which one of the following synovial joint is saddle type? A, sternocostal joint, B, interchondral joint, C, costovertebral joint, D, costal transverse joint, E, sternoclavicular joint. So which one is saddle type? A saddle type synovial joint is the joint where we have one surface is concave and the other surface is convex like this. So that kind of a joint is a saddle type joint. So when you look at the sternocostal joint, which is a joint which is formed by the sternum and the costal cartilages, that joint is a plain synovial joint. A plain synovial joint is a joint where we have two flat surfaces coming together to form a joint. That is a plain synovial joint. So A is a plain synovial joint. Interchondral joint, it is a joint between two adjacent cartilages, in two adjacent costal cartilages, like these joints there. Those are what we call interchondral joint, and they are plain synovial joint. Costovertebral joint, this is a joint between the rib and the thoracic vertebrae, and that joint is also a plain joint. So this joint here between the thoracic vertebrae and the rib is what we call the costal vertebrae joint. It is a plain joint. And the costal transverse joint, that is a joint between the rib and the between the tubercle of the rib and the transverse process of the thoracic vertebrae. So that joint is also a plane. We have two flat surfaces. E, the sternoclavicular joint is a saddle type synovial joint where we have the clavicle forming the concave part and the sternum forming the convex part and form a saddle type joint. So the correct answer is E for question 3. We move on to question 4. Question 4 reads, which one of the following muscles is attached to the posterior surface of the manubrium? Which one of the following muscles is attached to the posterior surface of the manubrium? A, thyrohyoid muscle, B, the sternal, and C, we have the teres minor, D, the pectoralis major, and E, the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So the correct answer for question 4 is B. The sternocleidomastoid muscle is attached to the posterior surface of the manubrium. So the sternocleidomastoid muscle is this muscle which is attaching on the hyoid bone here in the neck, and then from there it comes and attaches itself to the posterior surface of the manubrium there. That muscle there, this muscle is called a sternocleidomastoid muscle. So the correct answer is B for question 4. We move on to question 5. Question 5 reads, which one of the following joints of the thorax is considered as primary cartilaginous joint? Primary cartilaginous joint. A, intervertebral joint, B, costochondral joint, C, costovertebral joint, D, costotransverse joint, and E, Manubriosternal joint. So which one is considered to be a primary cartilaginous joint? I mentioned earlier about the typical. We have the typical and atypical. We have these typical and atypical joints. So those joints can be primary or secondary. Can be primary cartilaginous or secondary. So the primary one is a typical joint, and atypical, which starts with A here, is what we call a secondary joint. So the difference between these two, primary and secondary cartilaginous joint, is that the primary cartilaginous joint is covered by what we call a hyaline cartilage, and the secondary is covered by what we call the cartilage, the fibrous cartilage. Okay, so let's look at the intervertebrate joint. So intervertebrate joint and the costotransverse joint, this one here and that one, is a secondary. It is a synovial joint, not a cartilaginous joint. So these two are synovial joints. And then from there, the costochondral joint, this one here, it is a primary cartilaginous joint. It is held together by what we call a hyaline cartilage. So the correct answer for question 5 is B. And when you look at the Manubriosternal joint and the intervertebral joint, this one here, intervertebral joint and the Manubriosternal joint. So these ones are secondary cartilaginous joint. They are covered by what we call fibrous cartilage. So for question 5, the correct answer is B. The correct answer is the costochondral joint. It is a primary joint because it is covered by what we call hyaline cartilage. So we move on to question 6. Question 6 reads, which one of the following is located posterior to the lower left quadrant of the manubrium? A, the esophagus, B, the arch of the aorta, C, the superior vena cava, D, left brachiocephalic vein, E, right brachiocephalic vein. So which one among these is located posterior to the lower left quadrant of the manubrium? So this picture here, this is the manubrium there. Then if you divide it into quadrant, we have the right lower and upper and left lower and upper. So the question is asking about the lower left quadrant. So in the lower left quadrant here, that's where we find the aortic arch, which is ascending and forming the descending aorta. So that arch there is in the lower left quadrant. So the correct answer is B for question 6. We move on to question 7. The sternal angle of Lewis. It is also called the angle of Lewis. The sternal angle is located at the level of the lower border of the following thoracic vertebrae. So they are just asking about the level of the lower border of the thoracic vertebrae where the sternal angle is located. So A, second, B, third, C, fourth, D, fifth, and E, fifth. So now which one among these vertebrae, the lower border of these vertebrae forms where this sternal angle is located? So when you look at this diagram here, the sternal angle is the angle between which is formed by the manubrium and the body of the sternum. So it is between the level 4 and level 5 of the thoracic vertebrae. So the question here is asking us the lower border of which vertebrae. So the lower border of the fourth vertebrae is where the sternal angle, which is also called the angle of Lewis, is located. So the correct answer is C. We move on to question 8. Which one of the following costal cartilages forms a synovial joint with the body of the sternum? A, we have the first, B, second, C, eighth, D, ninth, and E, 10th. So which one among these forms a synovial joint with the sternum? So the first costal cartilage, it forms primary cartilaginous joint. It doesn't form a synovial joint. So that one is out. The second there. So that is the first, and this the second costal cartilage forms a joint with the manubrium and the body of the sternum, and that joint is a synovial joint. So that is the second there. As you can see there, it is formed between the second costal cartilage and the manubrium together with the body of the sternum, and it is a synovial joint. So the correct answer is the second. So when you look at the 8th, 9th, and 10th, these ones, they do not even attach to the sternum directly, but they attach to the costal cartilage above it. Like for the 8th, it attaches to the 7th cartilage there, and the 9th attaches to the 8th, and the 10th attaches to the 9th costal cartilage. They do not attach direct to the sternum. So the synovial joint here is the second one. The first one is it is a primary cartilaginous joint. So question 8, correct answer is B. Question 9. Which one of the following muscles is attached along the anterior surface of the body of the sternum? Which one among these is attached along the anterior surface of the body of the sternum? A, sternocostallis, B, internal oblique, C, pectoris major, D, rectus abdominis, and E, transversus abdominis. So which one among these is attached at the anterior surface of the body of the sternum? So let's look at this picture here. So the one which is attached on the anterior surface of the sternum is the pectoris major. This muscle here attaches on the anterior surface of the body of the sternum, the manubrium, and even the medial part of the clavicle there. For the transversus abdominis, the rectus abdominis, and the internal oblique, these ones, they attach on the xiphoid process there, which is simply a part of the sternum, but it is not the part of the body of the sternum. So we also have this muscle here, which is the sternocostallis. That muscle is posterior to the sternum. It is posterior to the sternum, and it is doesn't attach on the anterior surface of the sternum. So the correct answer here is C. The pectoris major is the muscle which attaches along the anterior surface of the body of the sternum. We move on to question 10. Which one of the following structure is located posterior to the right lower quarter of the body of the sternum? A. Aortic valve, B. Tricuspid valve, C. Ascending aorta, D. Pulmonary trunk, and E. Superior vena cava. So which one is located posterior to the right lower quarter of the body of the sternum? So in this diagram, the body of the sternum is here. So the lower quarter of the lower quarter of the body of the sternum, we find what we call the tricuspid valve. The lower quarter of the right lower quarter. So the right lower quarter is this side. That is to the right of the body of the sternum. This side, there is what we call a tricuspid valve, which is a valve which separates the right atria from the right ventricle. So it is at the right lower quarter of the body of the sternum. So the correct answer is B for question 10. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like if at all you like this video. Subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any of my videos, and leave your comment in the comment section below.